Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. We meet again to continue with our studies. Inshallah, Allah bless us with the studies and make us Muslims. Okay, let's start off with our intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the book of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, His reward subhanahu wa ta'ala. Continue on with our Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم ارزقنا يا ربي فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافيتي يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين وفقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل وهدنا إلى سواء السبيل اللهم انفعنا وارفعنا وعرفنا بالعلم النافع وانفعنا به أنفسنا وأهلنا وأوطاننا وديارنا وجميع المسلمين يا إله العالمين الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي الله أكبر. Okay, continue with our legacy. We are still with Nizamuddin Awliya. Go on to his attachment to children. It's very, very beautiful to see how he behaved. His akhlaq, very important. The Khawaja, amiable by nature, had a ready affection and kindliness for children. They are very sweet natured. Just like Rasulullah SAW, he loves the children a lot. Very kind to them, very caring to them. His preoccupations with the visitors and devotional exercises left him little spare time, but he always found some time to cheer up the children. He's got lots of things to do, but still he will put aside time to make the children happy. He took particular care to look after their requirements. Rafi'uddin was the grandson of the Khawaja's sister. The Khawaja always awaited his arrival before he started taking his meals, no matter who was present at the repast. He just loves his grandnephew. The Khawaja always took special care for his education and moral guidance. So it's very important for us to look into the education and moral guidance of the children. Important education. Sometimes we are so engrossed in making them educated that we forget about the moral guidance. It's very important, the moral guidance, because it builds the child and helps him to prepare for life as an adult also, and also in society. Rafi'uddin was fond of wrestling, archery, and swimming. The Khawaja chatted him about these sports to gladden and encourage him. So he didn't like say, oh, it's a waste of time. He doesn't do that, right? He encourages the children as long as it's not something which is evil. It's good wrestling. They are always taught the art of wrestling. This is more of fighting. They always have it's very important to have some kind of a martial art kind of thing. And archery is a sport encouraged in Islam, and also swimming. Often the young visitors came to the Khawaja smartly dressed, which was disliked by the Orthodox because of the airiness of such dresses. So the Orthodox people have got those who are very strict in their observance of certain things, right? They sometimes have particular reasons for not liking certain dressings, right? But the Khawaja seems friendly with them, it's okay. The Khawaja, however, never objected and received them courteously and vowed to guide them on a path of moral rectitude. So that is the main aim. Yeah, they can be dressing up. Youngsters nowadays, they dress up in many ways. You always welcome them. I remember how if you all have heard her before, Rania, her name is Rania. It's a Dr. Rania online, very, very, very beautiful lady. And she's from Syria, very religious also. She was mentioning how she first got into, get interested in religion. And she attended a talk by this Ustazah in Syria, in Damascus. And she was wearing short skirts. She says that this Ustazah welcome her, not finding faults with the dressing or haram and this and that. This is not the you need them to you need to build their love for the religion, and you make them understand the importance of having akhlaq. It's once they understand, they will come, inshallah, in due course. And so she said because of that, the Ustazah didn't reject her despite her dressing, and that makes it easier for her actually to learn from the Ustazah, and eventually she covered up. The author of Si'ah Awliya, Mir Khurud, says that once his uncle Sayyid Hussein Kirmani, who was then a young man, was fashionably dressed when he paid a visit to the Khawaja. So this is a person who relates stories of the Awliya. He has an uncle who was very fashionably dressed. The Khawaja on seeing him said politely, "Come on, Sayyid, sit down here and share the benediction." That means share the good things of life. The benign and winsome treatment of the young by Khawaja Nizamuddin helped many a young man to shake off undue exuberances and gaiety and take to righteous living and spiritual development. So he has a way of doing things, right? Instead of commenting so much, instead of criticizing the young ones, he welcomed them, and he engages them in things, and eventually they left whatever was not really favorable. And he, of course, and go for righteous living and spiritual development. Of course, we would expect him to make lots of dua for these people also. The Khawaja's loving heart and sweet disposition had made his manners so amiable and pleasing that one is reminded of the findings of Al-Ghazali after years of wanderings to find the path of truth and certitude of knowledge. And so this kind of akhlaq, as it said, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said in a hadith that he is sent to perfect akhlaq. The akhlaq is the beautiful manners of people, loving, kind, sweet, gentle, understanding of people, and not so fast to condemn people, like Hamza Yusuf was saying, converts, especially converts, they take time to understand things, right? And once there was this convert who went to the mosque and he had a earring or something gold on him, earring or chain or whatever. And this person just says, "Hey, you cannot wear this, haram." And yet the wearing of gold, there are differences of opinion. And it's not the most important critical thing, basically. So that is what it is. So it seems that Al-Ghazali also realized about the importance of great, beautiful akhlaq. After he went out. We know that Imam Ghazali left the university where he was the head of the university, like a dean in the university, and to search for the reality of being a true Muslim. And that he went wandering, and he met lots of people. He learned lots of things to find a path of truth. He knew he has great knowledge, Ghazali, but the knowledge had made him arrogant, and he felt that there was something missing in his knowledge. That is why he comes, eventually he wrote the book, the column, the volumes of books, Ihya Ulumuddin, Living Sciences of the Religion, to make the religion real life for you. I learned from a sure source that the Sufis are the true pioneers in the path of Allah, that there is nothing more beautiful than their life, no more praiseworthy than their rule of conduct, nor purer than their morality. So this is what Ghazali discovered as he went through, he went wandering, searching for the truth, and he saw the Sufis. Who are the Sufis? The Sufis are the people who worked hard at self-purification. Right? They are the true pioneers on the path of Allah. They are the ones who walk on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing more beautiful than their life. Their life is beautiful. They might be poor as seen by others, but they are rich. They are rich in their soul. They are rich in their hearts. They are rich in their character. They are rich in their morality. No more praiseworthy the rule of conduct. So they behave in the best of manner, and their morality is the purest of pure. The intelligence of the thinkers, the wisdom of the philosophers, the knowledge of the most learned doctors of the law would in vain combine their efforts in order to modify and improve their doctrine and morals. It will be impossible. Right? So there is nothing they can do, right? Thinkers are intelligent because always thinking and thinking. Then the philosophers try to gain wisdom, although most of the time their thinking is so wise, you know. And the knowledge of the learned, of course, knowledge is definitely those who are doctors of law would learn, right? But they can't do anything. They combine themselves. They can't improve their doctrine and morals. It's impossible because they have reached a perfect stage of morality and understanding of the religion. The Sufis' repose and movement, exterior or interior, are illuminated with the light which proceeds from the radiance of prophethood. Right, so that is what it is. Not, of course, not all Sufis. I'll be very careful. Hamza Yusuf all have mentioned about certain kinds of Sufis. We must always identify Sufis. And Sufis do not have good manners. So supposedly Sufis do not have good manners, and there is something wrong there somewhere. Because true Sufis will have good manners. Their repose, that means their relaxation, their movement, their exterior, their interior, all illuminated with the light which proceeds from the radiance of Rasul, of prophethood. And so they are the beacons of light, right? That carries on the light of the prophet. They are not prophets, there's no prophet after Rasulullah, right? But they have that inner illumination Allah has blessed them. This is, of course, Rasulullah has taught us du'as, lots of du'as, which we should find time to practice. Rasulullah has taught us about asking Allah for Allahumma ja'alni nuran fi qalbi, wa ja'alni nuran fi sam'i, wa ja'alni nuran fi basari, wa ja'alni nuran fi sha'ri, wa nuran fi dami, wa nuran fi lahmi, wa nuran fi ja'al fi idami, wa nuran fi azami, wa nuran fi waj'alni nura, right? Say, Allah bless me with light in my heart, light in my eyes, light in my nose, light in my ears, light in my muscles, light in my head, my blood, light. Okay, so this is the dua, you know, to get light, you know, and make me light. Waj'alni nura, and make me light. So this is of the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We should, inshallah, we dua that we are blessed with making all these special du'as that Rasulullah ﷺ has taught us. And what other light would shine on the face of the earth, right? So this is the true light. We also, last week, we went through the hadith, and they said that those who pray 5 times a day and uphold their trust, that means the trust of purifying themselves, right? Purifying physically and spiritually, then they are the beacons of light, right, on earth. Natural affection. The pith and marrow of Khawaja Nizamuddin's life and character, which illuminated his inner self and inspired his moral zeal, was the fervor of spiritual love arising from the harmony of his soul. So he's saying that, right, those who have this strong spiritual love, because it's love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, it arises from the harmony of your soul. So when you reach a certain stage where you have knowledge is very important, as we know. Khawaja learned the rules of Islam, the fiqh of Islam. So those who people who want to become Sufis but don't want to learn the rulings of Islam, they cannot attain the Sufism. And that so and through his learnings and his zikrs and his ponderings and his Quran reading, right? And his desire for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it arises from the harmony of his soul. His soul is inclined to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the soul and the heart comes together. And because of that, this illuminates his inner self and inspired his morals. So you desire to move on and on and on and on to improve yourself. So this is where his stage is. He has already reached that stage where he has removed all diseases from his heart, right? And he is inclined towards caring and loving and honoring and having respect as the Prophet ﷺ has advised us, respect for the old and love and kindness to the young. That's him. So it is. This his life and his character. The flame of this love, which he carried in itself from the very beginning, burst into a radiant glow in the practice of spiritual austerities under the paternal guidance of his Sheikh and guide Khawaja Fariduddin Gan Shakar, and illuminated the environs of Delhi for more than half a century. So he was elected quite early in his life, and he's been there and has meant, as we have seen, right, he was elected by Fariduddin to be the king, okay, to be the sultan of the spiritual world, that means of India, and he was asked to go to Delhi to bring about the transformation in people, right? And also what he's saying is that he illuminates, his presence has given light to the environment of Delhi half a century. So he was very well guided. So that is why it is we must have proper guidance from a real sheikh, right? And of course, and we be with them in those who are being trained. It's a lot of training, as we saw, and some of the training can be very rigorous and not easy to go through, but it is necessary. Training is necessary to bring the best in us. The Khawaja's elevated soul, which had reached the highest degree of sanctity, diffused the message of divine love to the four corners of the country and comforted innumerable roving spirits. This is very strange. If you have ever come across some writings by some people who says that, especially those who are talking about Christianity and Islam, they would always consider Islam as not a religion of love compared to Christianity, which is a religion of love where they are concerned. In fact, Mariama once, she mentioned to me that, Mariam, among the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this person was mentioning to, I don't know where she got it from, but someone said that there is no name of Allah that shows love. Right? Of course, in Rahim, there's love. In Kareem, there's love. In Ra'uf, there's love. But it is wrong to say there is no name of Allah, which is love, because the Wadud is beautiful love. That is not, they don't have Habib, Hubub, or any variations of Hababa, right? Habib, which is love also, but there are many words in Arabic language which means love, and the name Wadud is one of the highest form of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not, we have, it's just that sometimes we do notice maybe among some scholars, they're a bit firm and harsh, whereas the Quran has taught us to be kind and gentle and sweet and loving and compassionate to the believers. And somehow it went around wrongly that once a Christian actually who converted to Islam says he doesn't feel much brotherhood when he goes to the mosque compared to the brotherhood in a church. There's a lot of work there, right, for our Muslims to be there to be part of a society loving and caring for each other. So he has done his part. He did a lot, right? And he is able to diffuse this divine love, right, to people, to innumerable roving spirits, that means spirits which are lost, moving around here and there aimlessly. And a lot of people are lost because of their hearts and their minds. his whole life, his conversations and discourses, and his devotional and ecstatic practices point out unmistakably to the same infatuation and innermost warmth of divine love, which has thus been described by Iqbal. Iqbal is a poet, an Indian poet. So his life, his conversations, he speaks beautifully. His discussions, right? His devotional and ecstatic practices, his ibadah is amazing. What kind of rites people, the du'as and the zikir. I remember once a convert was saying that no other religion has this state where even the lay persons are in great devotional state to God. Our salat 5 times a day, right, seen by some people as we being overblown Muslims. Right? But that is what it is. Now we can pray 5 times a day, and then there are those who will make their zikirs after the salat, reading of the Quran, those people who wake up for tahajjud and make all kinds of du'as. You can read, I've seen ladies who sit down reading the khulasa, that's all like the recitals and du'as and du'as and du'as that the Prophet has taught us. And this is love. This is really a religious, it is devotional and ecstatic practices. All right, let's look at a poem. Hopefully I can get something out of a poem. At last, the flames burst forth from every hair of me. Fire dropped from the veins of my thoughts. So there's it's a couplet, just 2 verses, right? So once you are in love, right? In love, as has always been described by those who are in love, that is actually you are you are in love is like fire and it burns from every hair. It means I'm full, every single part of me is love. Fire dropped from the veins of my thoughts, right? So my love, my devotion and everything, right, is confined in me. It runs through my blood. I know of a person actually who was very dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he had a dream, right, that his blood spills, right, and this is something about his blood. So the blood flow, and in the flow of the blood, you could see the word Allah, 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 Allah. This is of the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As related in the Fawaidul Fuad, once the deathbed accounts of these different mystics were being narrated before the Khawaja. So they tell him stories of how different mystics, different Khawajas passed away. Someone told the story of a sheikh when the name of Allah on his lips was sinking in the jaws of death. On the age of tears, the Khawaja recited the verse which meant, washing my cheeks with streaming tears, I set my foot to draw near. Union with you, I ardently aspire. Humming your name, I go to deathly slumber. So that's it. They are always, they don't like to waste their time. And they're very, 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 very fearful of, they watch every single moment of how they spend their time. And their time is so full of all the benefits, right? It benefits people, benefits themselves, benefits, and they cry easily. Washing my cheeks with streaming tears, I set my foot to draw near. Union with you, I ardently aspire. Humming your name, I go to deathly slumber. Right? They cry and they wish they do whatever they can. They have been taught to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want to be together with Allah. They want to be in union, means that means they are getting a closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we have mentioned, that those people who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they go into their salat, they just lost. They are lost in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some even say they are raised up to the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Humming your name, I go to deathly slumber. So you die with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your lips. Such was the all-consuming love cherished by the Khawaja. He had expelled every other desire from his heart, as someone has said, the heart's immortal thirst remained, and the rest went up in smoke. So the what is in the heart, right? Love for anything else is gone, is burned, it goes up in smoke. And that love, that thirst that is immortal, that means thirst for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The joyful exhilaration of divine love kept the Hawaja always fresh and beaming with radiance in spite of night-long vigils. We saw how he spent his nights, right, praying the whole night, all doing all kinds of prayers, zikrs, and Quran reading and everything. That would tire people. People of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't need to sleep much. Their sleep is only a few hours, as Rasulullah has advised us, after Isha. Right? Isha maybe about 8:30 now, right? We sleep by 9:30, do our zikr, so our daily, nightly recitals that we are taught to do, and then sleep about 9:30. We wake up at 3:30. That's already 6 hours of sleep. We have been informed that we have to have 8 hours of sleep. Not true. Because Allah gives us, Allah sustains us. But we are advised in the daytime, about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, just before Zuhur, even after Zuhur is also fine, to have a short nap. Let's call it a siesta. Half an hour. You don't have to really sleep if you can't sleep, but just rest. At least have that time to just lie down, close your eyes, and just maybe zikr Allah, 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 Allah. It's easiest zikr is Allah, 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 Allah. Even you can do it in the tongue, maybe astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. A bit longer. Or salawat, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Allahumma salli alayhi. Right? These are things which keeps our heart and soul strong. Even when he had grown quite old, he continuously kept fast and undertook exhausting devotional exercises, but no trace of weariness could be seen on his face. When you are in joy, when you are happy, you don't feel tired. Like some people, they say, when people talk about working, they say, my work is my joy. So I don't feel tired because I love doing what I'm doing. And not everybody enjoys their work. Some people just work to get the money because they got no choice but to work and earn money. But some people, they just love what they are doing. And that is why their work is joy. So they don't need any other form of joy. So here we have our Hawaja enjoying every moment of the work. And this is what Allah has told us in the Quran. Right? We work hard in this world for the next world. Right? And we will be happy, inshallah, in this one, the next one. Lots of reward. And we have gone through last lesson on the benefits of saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, the rewards that we get in this world and the rewards that we get in the next world. So why not? Why waste our life watching videos which are just lots of crap, lots of nonsense inside, watching, going through lots of Facebook, Facebooking, read all kinds of nonsense. Show this what you eat, show this where you go, everything you want to show, you want to read, want to find out about people. Why? You need now. That is not necessary. If you think about it, it's about time we gain some kind of wisdom in our life and devote our life to things which really matters, working for the next world, inshallah. He lived to the ripe old age, exceeding 80 years, but even in that advanced age, he was always brisk, cheerful, and fresh as a daisy. Musical recitations. But the flame of love also stirs the blood, which then needs the soothing balm of lyrics sung in praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So this flame of love, you need balm, fire, you don't be too fiery. But the blood need the balm, there's some cooling, soothing lyrics sung in the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A heart inflamed by the love of Allah gets an opportunity to shed tears and pacify its consuming passion through these recitations, while the tiresomeness of exhausting devotional exercises is cast away by exhilarating love songs. So you need that kind of moments of being connected, being consumed by love songs, being exhilarated, and songs which exhilarate you. All right. This is the reason given by Jalaluddin Rumi too in these verses. Therefore, sam'ah is the food of lovers of Allah. Sam'ah. Listen to the names of Allah. But not only you recite it, but people out there reciting and saying it. It gives you food. Since therein is the fantasy of composure, tranquility of mind. Forget the meaning of fantasy. But fantasy is, I think, like something like with the F, but it's more for the soul, if I'm not wrong. And those of you who might have can check and message us and tell us the meaning of fantasy. Yeah? fantasies. It's not wrong spelling, it's a correct word. I've checked the meaning before, but somehow I sort of forget the meaning. Right? Fantasy of composure, right? So it creates that joy, that minds that allows you to be so more composed and tranquility of mind. From hearing sounds and pipings, the mental fantasies gather a great strength, meaning they become forms in the imagination. So the words, sometimes if you all have ever listened to lyrics of nasheeds, praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it really gets into you. You listen to the salawats that they make in the mauluds, and understand the meaning. People, tears stream down their cheeks because of the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the joys that they have to be connected with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be blessed with the mercy of sitting down, mentioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Allah, right, knowing, realizing that Allah loves Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we are also in love with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They become forms in the imagination. So it's something like imagination, like fantasy. When you fantasize, it's in your imagination, but imagination, right, actually allows much more, a great strength in the soul, actually. The fire of love is made keen, inflamed by melodies, just as the fire of the man who dropped walnuts into the water. I'm not sure what it means. Fire of the man. Was it some kind of idiom that I looked through? It is number one. There was a number one there, and it's supposed to go to some books, which I don't know where to find those books. Anyway, well, he's just talking about the melodies, right? Actually gives you that other. If it was to drop walnuts into the water, has walnuts. Most of these nuts, almonds, walnuts, cashew nuts, and they're encased in a very, very hard skin, very hard skin, outer skin. And the people through the years, through the centuries, have discovered how to remove the skin from the nuts. Yeah, when I was in China, they taught us how to break walnuts from the big chunk of skin. They have their skills. So maybe putting water would be people who are desirous of getting the walnuts, like getting to drink, to eat of something that's good. This is, of course, fire of love. Almost the same reason has also been given by the Khawaja in support of these recitals. We saw how he was brought to court to the king because of envy of certain theologians who have strong opinions against music, and they consider him wrong in having sessions of musical recitations. And he was able to convince the Sultan that that what he was doing was not against Islam. He says the musical recitations are for the seekers of truth, the faithful, and the devotees who are given to others orisons and vigils. Right? So those who have been working hard at night, not sleeping, and doing all kinds of actions arduously, faithfully, with vigor and strength, right? Then this recitation is for them. They are seekers of truth, the faithful, and the devotees. They have verily a right to soothe their agitated hearts and tired bodies to regain the lost strength. Yeah, as mentioned, he's saying that they work very hard. So this is a moment of relaxation. And their form of relaxation is to listen to sounds that stirs up that love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It cools them, it calms them down. Rasulullah has said that your own body has a claim over you. That means you should allow your body to rest also. And that is the way they rest. That's when the self is refreshed through these recitals, it again gets busy in its labor of you. Maulana Kashani, another authority on the subject, says, as a serious all right, we haven't gone through that. Inshallah, we'll get to that. Assiduous contemplations and exercises rewarded with ecstatic transport and illuminations. Assiduous contemplations and exercises rewarded with ecstatic transports and illuminations often become burdensome to the traveler who feels a painful lack of strength resulting from the long and continued strain. What does this mean? Now, those who are in this group of people who are always putting effort to finding time, moving through moments of contemplations and exercises will be the devotional exercises, the salat, the reading of the Quran and everything, right? And they are rewarded with ecstatic transports and illuminations. We'll go into that. What does that mean? Ecstatic transports and illuminations. And they are illuminations, of course, they are blessed with certain knowledge, they are illuminated with certain knowledge, they often become burdensome. So all these things are very tiring to them. To the traveler who feels a painful lack of strength resulting from the long and continued strain. It's not that it is not difficult, it is difficult on them, right? The joy is there, but it has a strain in itself. For example, we can relate this to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It says that when he did mention, right, in his hadith that when the verses came down, it can be very, very heavy on him, very exhausting also, and he starts to even sweat on very cold days also. So there is this strain, right, in doing that. So this gives rise to alternate conditions known as contrition and radiance in his spiritual ascent. So at times you are contrition, right? That means I think contrition, if I'm not wrong, means like squeeze or strained, and radiance. So there are moments of and these moments of radiance and spiritual ascent, you really need a guide to guide you along through, or else you would be seduced by the devil. The devil will always be waiting to bring you away, to put into different to seduce you with supposedly illumination, which is not true illuminations, radiance and such. So you must know when you are being seduced by the devil, because the devil has said that Iblis has said he will watch you on the right path. He doesn't watch you on the wrong path, because he knows you're already his army of people. That is why the mystics of old have described musical recitations, the melodies of harmonious voice, to retouch the spiritual vigor, provided, of course, these do not outstep the limits set by the Lord. All right, so it is melodies of harmonious voice. So musical recitations here is confined to the beautiful voices, right, which are melodious, which retouch the spiritual vigor, provided, of course, do not outstep. So there are limits to music here. What does it mean by the musical recitations here? The mystics also mention that these recitations help the traveler on his path and illumine and revivify his spirit. So they saw it as a necessity, as to have this musical moments, because it helps them on his path and lights up and revive their spirits. The Khawaja, however, never took the musical recitations as an aid to all or an indispensable part of devotional exercise. So you do not, where he is concerned, he did not depend on it, right, as a means, as an aid to never took the musical recitations an aid to all an indispensable part of devotional exercise. That means it's not, some people like, it has to be there, right? It is indispensable. I cannot live without it. No, it's not. He doesn't do that. The musical is that he understands the need for that musical recitations, but it is not everything. It doesn't see it as the means, right, for him to move into the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He occasionally took recourse to them simply as a spiritual nourishment. It's like a little bit of food, special food once in a while, not all the time. Delineating the essential requirements, requisites of a lawful recitation, he says, a musical recitation is of 4 types: visually lawful, prohibited, unbecoming, and permissible. All right, so you got lawful, prohibited, unbecoming, and permissible. If the listener is inclined more to the primal being, the recital is permissible. So first it goes to permissible, because of the recitals, because of the wordings of the words of the and harmony, it allows you to be inclined to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it's permissible. If he's more attracted to a finite being, it's unbecoming. That means the songs cause him to fall in love with other things, then it's unbecoming. It's just wrong. Unbecoming is wrong, right? It's not good at all. Like some song nowadays, modern day songs cause you, it's always full of infatuation and love, and it's nowadays a lot of junk also out there. If he is exclusively absorbed in a mortal being, it is prohibited. That means he's just completely obsessed with the mortal being, that it's haram. But it is lawful if the true love in which a listener is engrossed is none Almighty. So the only time this kind of musical recitations are lawful just now is permissible. It is okay, not sinful. Lawful is only when the listener is engrossed in none but Almighty Allah. So that is the aim of these musical recitations. Therefore, whosoever is fond of such recitations ought to be aware of these 4 categories. For a lawful recitation, there are a few prerequisites too. First, the songster. Secondly, the listener. Thirdly, the recitation. And fourthly, the musical instruments, right? So first, the one who sings, then the one who listens, then the recitation itself, right? So you must look at the singer, you must look at the listener, that means that the listener must be involved, must be into thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The singer also must sing songs which, right, the singer must be a proper person, right? And then the recitation in itself, the lyrics must be proper, and then the musical instruments. So the singer should be a grown-up man, neither of tender age nor a woman. So that kids, quite strict about it, right? You see, right? In these gatherings, the singer is a man. Can I have a woman singing away among men, trying to make them fall in love with a man, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or get engrossed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when this beautiful woman is out there singing away? You know, this beautiful woman out there with doing all kinds of things, and even wearing the scarf, fully makeup, singing and talking and everything. Right, men must be grown, cannot be tender age. There is this somehow an attraction for young boys and among men. I'm not very sure about what it's all about, but it's the Quran, the Hadith has mentioned about this young boys, which entices men, right, and cause them to be falling in love with these young boys. The listener should hearken with his thoughts fixed on Allah. So that is the requirement, that the listener must always move towards thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He cannot stray around doing other kinds of fantasies. The recitation should not deal with a subject ludicrous, frivolous, or silly. So the words must be proper words, right? Good words that bring you back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have done the Diba'i, the Maulud Diba'i, they have beautiful nasheeds, beautiful salawats, all talking, bringing you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And finally, no musical instrument like a lute or violin should accompany the recitation. They have the tabla, the drums, but there's certain drums also. There are certain conditions for the kind of drums that's allowed, but lute will be the flute, and I think lute and flute almost it. If you all can correct me out there. I think so. Like basically anything that have the with the air sound, which cause people to get excited, to get into a certain kind of ecstatic state. The violin, the string instruments are all not allowed. Like the piano is a string instrument. Violin, the guitar, and whatever, it's all not. The Khawaja not only disliked instrumental music, but also forbade its use by his disciples. So you can see these are zikirs, basically zikirs, nasheed. We've heard beautiful nasheeds, which have been, you know, on air, right? And it really brings you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is very good for our children to be brought up. But while they are playing, let them listen to some music that brings them wordings that make them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, appreciation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, appreciation of the I think Daud wants be beautiful songs also he has there. Now, did he accept any excuse if any follower ever indulged in the unauthorized practice? So the Khawaja was once informed that a few friars, then like friar, I remember friar tongue, because our mind is like so indoctrinated to all those stories and everything. Where does fly part come from anyway? It's some kind of very religious people supposedly that had attended and enrolled in an audition employing instrumental music. So it's against that. Of course, we might say, oh, there are dervishes out there who have music. Well, they have their own opinions. We are not going to say anything bad about them. We just ask Allah to guide everybody aright. Now, Khawaja said they did not do well. Whatsoever transgresses the limits of the Sharia is unlawful. So he is concerned, it's against the Sharia to have this kind of instruments, certain musical instruments. When Khawaja was told of the plea taken by the mendicants that in the ecstatic reverie, they had so abandoned themselves that they become completely oblivious of the musical instruments, he observed, this is no excuse. So what they are saying is that the mendicants are those people who are who left the world for the next world, right? So they are saying that yes, there are musical instruments in their musical recitations, but because they are in an ecstatic reverie, that means they are in a state of ecstasy, that they do not they are oblivious. That means the musical instruments doesn't affect them at all because they're oblivious to the musical instrument. He says, no, there's no excuse. Don't use it at all, because where he's concerned, he has taught his disciples, or he has learned himself from his teachers, that music is fine, melodious, harmonious voice with good words is enough to bring you into a state of repose and a state of calmness and tranquility. This plea can be advanced for indulging in every vice. It says, can use this excuse, right, in all kinds of sins. As he says, for example, some people say, I drink wine, but it doesn't have any effect on me. I'm not more drunk, so no problem. What for me, it's okay. Right? You can see like that. No effect on you. You know, say after a while, it's just that, nothing at all. The Khawaja once told his disciples the use of musical instruments being a means of amusement is strictly prohibited. How could it be lawful when women in a congregation prayer are prohibited even to clap their hands in order to remind the Imam if he commits a mistake in the recitation of the Quran? All right, now he gives his reasons why he says the musical instrument is prohibited. You see, he's saying that when we are praying in congregation, if the Imam makes a mistake, right? I think, if I'm not wrong, the man can say Subhanallah, and the Imam will realize that he had made a mistake. But when the woman is concerned, they are not allowed to say Subhanallah. They are just to clap their hands. The women are not allowed to clap their hands also. I'm not sure. Because the sound of the clapping hands of the woman, right? Maybe the hands are, I don't know how men sees women, right? Men clap hands sound differently from women clapping hands. I thought women are supposed to clap their hands. I'm not sure about that. We'll find out the ruling, inshallah. Ecstatic transports. The Khawaja often used to say that a single verse was sufficient to move a man with unsullied heart to tears and ecstasy, but nothing could exhilarate a spiritless fellow. Just a verse can affect a person's heart, right? But if the heart is inclined, right, to have some kind of sense, a spirit, it will cry, tears, and to tears and ecstasy, but nothing. If you are a spiritless fellow, no matter what you say, also useless. So it means can't change, it can affect anyone. Whenever a verse praising Allah was recited before the Khawaja, he was enraptured, but in a way that nobody could notice it. During this rapturous states, only tears used to roll down his cheeks. So this is states of them. They have reached that state when the name of Allah are being mentioned. They have this great sense in them. You can't see that in them, right? They move into a state of great love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what you can see is only tears falling down. Tears, they really can cry. That's why we need to learn how to cry. We need to be directed. Most of us are not trained into understanding love, we are obsessed with all kinds of nonsense loves outside, right? It doesn't bring us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the real true love of Allah, right, allows us to be in a state of crying. We go into the presence of Allah in salat, they cry and they cry and they cry and they cry and they cry. And we heard Rasulullah, they say they've heard sometimes whistling as if we say of cattle, and Rasulullah was crying and crying and crying and crying. This is rapturous moments, actually. Mirhud has quoted a few verses which on different occasions send the Khawaja into ecstatic transport. So that's the meaning of ecstatic transports. I mean, they are transported into states of great ecstasy. Closeness, fully in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tears just roll down their faces, their cheeks. And we have heard of a great ulama that when they pass on, those people who wash their body, they can see marks, of tears. When you cry, you can have marks on your faces. He says that often a whole poem could not produce that rapturous exaltation which was caused by a single Persian or Hindi verse. So certain verses really impact, but sometimes some just doesn't have the impact. Once a grandee, Amir Qayrbek, a rich person, held a recitational sitting which was attended by several nobles and mystics. The songster sang the verse. Hard put to toil I am within my shanty home. Give not tongue to my tale, let alone. No sooner than the verse was recited, the Khawaja was carried away by a deep emotion and tears began to roll down his cheeks, which set the whole gathering in a melting mood. It was all of them started crying. I worked so hard in this simple place of mine. Don't talk about me, leave me alone. Right? Don't talk about my life, right? What I am, just leave me alone, which means leave me alone to Allah subhanahu. Another time, although the Khawaja was indisposed, he was sent into transport when Hassan Behdi recited the verse, "Oh, without a figure, indeed, Sa'di, thou art." Thou art means you are. All right. Oh, without a figure, indeed, Sa'di, one who is in a state of joy, happiness, you are. Too poor a catch where the trapped are pure in a heart. Too poor a catch. I'm not very poetic. The trapped are pure in the heart. So, well, it affected him so much. There's this couplet. These two verses. The recitation ended, the Khawaja calmed down. So during the recitation, he was overwhelmed, he was full of ecstasy, and he's crying. But as soon as Amir Haji began another ode of Amir Khosrow, the Khawaja again dissolved in tears. Once Amir Khosrow recited one of his odes, whose opening verse was, "He stood unveiled to all, but asked me not to behold. Thrilled and lost, I knew not what his words contained." All right. So he stood unveiled to all, but asked me not to behold. Thrilled and lost, I knew not what his words contained. Khawaja gave a sidelong look at Amir Khosrow and then broke into tears, falling into rapturous ecstasy. So these words really affected him, right? Give him a certain kind of reflection of the realities of his life, of unveilings that he might have gone through, whatever, right? We can't understand because we are not in his position. But basically, he goes into states which creates that love for Allah. So can you imagine, right? The Fatihas and all these things are profound verses which causes all these mystics to go into states of ecstasy. Whichever ode or verse produced a consuming emotion of ecstasy, and Khawaja Nizamuddin became instantly popular in Delhi as a household word, right? But because you don't, people might like those couplets and those verses and those poems because it affected him, but how it affects individuals is very different. It depends on their experiences. It is written that Sultan Alauddin Khilil had given instructions to his courtiers to inform him of the verses which caused the Khawaja to fall in raptures. King derived pleasure whenever these verses were related to him. So this is how they. All right, we'll take a short break here. This is a different world, different people, but they are Muslims and they have attained stages, very high stages. All right, we'll take a break here. Alhamdulillah, we continue with Hamza Yusuf.
hearing, we're seeing, we're speaking, we have will, we have all of these qualities. We have existence. It's contingent, but it's existence nonetheless. So he's given us all of these attributes in order for us to understand something about his attributes. And so when he calls us to sin, to this peace of submission, he's doing it for our benefit. Imam al-Ghazali said that if you, he said, if a sultan had a minister, like a ruler had a minister, and that minister wanted to get close to the sultan by moving his finger in the privacy of his home, he said that that would be ridiculous and demeaning for the sultan. And he said, well, the same is true for he said, our worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is less than that in relation to the king and the minister. So we have to understand Allah does not need us. We need Allah. And he's promised these things out of his fadl. That's only out of his fadl. There's no obligation on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Awjaba ala nafsi. He has obligated to himself out of his fadl. So we have this extraordinary religion that is calling us to enter into this state of submission, and then to work on our hearts. And this is why tazkiyah is central to our tradition. You cannot have outward peace if you don't have inward peace. And there's all these people that clamor for peace, but because they're not peaceful in themselves, because they lose their tempers, they get angry, they're greedy, they're selfish. All of these things that you see in the macrocosmic world are reflections of what's happening in the microcosmic world. And so when a government aggresses on another government because they want their natural resources, that's no different from an individual who's embezzling funds at his office because he has a gambling addiction, and he needs to find a way of getting more money to fulfill his gambling addiction. It's the same thing. So what you see, I mean, one of the things, and this is a major problem in our community, is that so many of our community think of the zalim as the ruler. But if you actually look at it, it's a dhulm all the way down. The ruler becomes a reflection of the state of the people. Kama takununa yuwalla alaykum. As you are, so are the people put over you. And if that hadith has some weakness, the great scholar Abu Bakr al-Tattushi said that I found it in the Quran. Like that, we put some oppressors over other oppressors because of what they were doing. And so if we're not working on ourselves, if we're not removing the oppression from our own selves, I mean, just fasting alone, let's look at a few things about just oppressing the self. We now know that 78%, according to the studies that have been done, of hospitalized people with COVID were obesity. We also know that people that exercise 150 minutes a week, that's slightly over 20 minutes a day of moderate exercise, not even like really high level, but just walking briskly. Those people, they studied 50,000 COVID cases in the state of California, and they found that those people that did that were not hospitalized. Well, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna li jasdika alayka haqqa," that your body has rights over you. So one of the rights of your body is to eat well. Another is to exercise, because this is a trust that we've been given. It's a sacred trust. So you have to do all of these things. And if you don't do them, you must expect, because you've transgressed the limits. If you're eating more caloric intake than you actually need, you're transgressing limits. And so there's going to be repercussions. If you're not exercising, you're transgressing limits. You're a zalim to your own body. Now, also, you could look at it, the Prophet ﷺ said, another reason we get plagues. And again, nobody wants to talk about this because it's just not politically correct. But another reason, according to our hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that the sexual deviancy never manifests in a people openly except they are afflicted with diseases and plagues. And he said clearly that tawa'in, which are plagues, and amrad, that were not in their previous peoples. So that's another reason to stay within the hudud. And out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to our tradition, if people hide these things out of shame and conceal them, it's not going to affect the greater society. But when they shamefully, openly do these things, we believe. So people can say, oh, these are all wives' tales of religions. That's fine. You can believe that. But we see with our own eyes the reality of it. So whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, it actually happens to clearly be shown to us in the actions of people. And we see this. And that's why people that have a religious tradition have lower blood pressure, have less anxiety. They're healthier people. They're more giving. There have been many studies done showing that religious people are more charitable than other people. So even just from a pragmatic point of view, one would think that they would support religion, but they don't, because we're living in a culture that is so anti-religious, that is so secular, that is so hateful of belief. It's just quite stunning, the animosity. And you can see it in films, the way they make fun of religious people. You can see it in, Mr. Bean is a wonderful character, but when he does the kind of Anglican minister, it's quite sad. Now, unfortunately, and I have to say this, but many religious people have made themselves the brunt of that type of comedic fodder. So this is a problem in our community. So I really feel like we as Muslims, we have a short time here, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the day of judgment is a day يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. On that day, it will be of no benefit to people unless they bring a peaceful heart, salim, a whole heart, a sound heart, a heart at peace. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the meanings of salam is tuma'nina, which is quietude. So this idea of just being quiet within yourself, being unperturbed, being undisturbed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. That the servants of the merciful, and he used the merciful there. He could have used any other name, but he used the name the merciful. The servants of the merciful, when they pass by ignorant people, jahilun, and jahil is a beautiful word in Arabic because it doesn't just mean ignorant. It also means zealous and fanatical. So the jahil is somebody of hamiyya. They have this intense, hamiyya. And so that's an example where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when these ignoramuses pass them, these zealous people who try to goad them into reacting, because they love to do this, to get reactions from them. They simply say peace, with peace, and again, that's a collective of Allah. But Allah is calling to the abode of peace. Your home should be a peaceful place. If you have violence in your home, if you have domestic violence towards your wife, and in some cases it's nowhere near as much, but in some cases violence towards the husband, it does happen more than people would like to talk about. But generally it's the women that are victims of domestic violence. If you have violence in your home, it is not a Muslim home. It's something else. Because the word in Arabic for home is maskan, which means the place of sakina. It's the place where a woman and children should feel safe. And the reason they feel safe is because they have a secure place to live in, and then they have a husband that's going to protect them. That's our tradition. So that's another problem. If you don't have peace in the home, peace in the home begins with peace inside. So if the husband is not at peace in himself, then he's going to be violent with those around them. And verbal abuse is as bad sometimes as physical abuse. And it can even be worse in some ways, because physical abuse, you can heal from those bruises. But very often, emotional abuse, that constant abuse of somebody can really wear them down. And it will damper their faith in a way that's very troubling. And then finally,
Alhamdulillah, short clip from Hamza Yusuf. We continue with our Wafi commentary on the Hadith. Right, as usual, we're going to read the Hadith, because this is the other words of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We are blessed to be hearing the exact words of Rasulullah, not the translation. Of course, the translation is necessary for us because we don't understand Arabic. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kullu khairin sadaqah. An Abi Malik al-Harith ibn Asim al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tuhuru syatrul iman walhamdulillahi tamla'ul mizan wa subhanallahi walhamdulillahi tamla'an aw tamla'u ma bayna as-samawati wal ard was-salatu nur was-sadaqatu burhan was-sabru diya wal-Qur'anu hujjata laka aw alayka kullun nasi yaghdu faba'i'u nafsahu famu'tiquha aw mubiquha. Rawahul Muslim. All right, every good is charity. Every good is charity. It is on the authority of Abu Malik al-Harith Ibn Asim al-Ash'ari radiallahu anhu said that Rasulullah said, purity is half of faith. We've gone through that. Alhamdulillah fills the scales. We've gone through that. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, both feel or feels whatever is between the heavens and the earth. We've gone through that. Prayer is light. We've gone through that also, right? And charity is proof. We're going to go through that today. Patience is radiant light, and the Quran is a proof for you or against you. All right. Every morning, everybody goes out in the morning and sells his soul. Then he either sets it free from slavery or destroys it. Rawahul Muslim. All right, we recap first what we did last lesson. Wudu is the key to paradise. Wudu is a key to paradise, so it is a key to salat. You want to salat, you must take wudu. And salat is a key to paradise, so wudu is a key to paradise also. Shahada after proper wudu is key to 8 doors of paradise. You want make the dua, always remember to make the dua after wudu. And ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma make our dua. We went through that also. Always being in wudu is a characteristic of faith. A person who's always constantly taking wudu, after you go toilet, take wudu, go toilet, take wudu. See, that is a show of desire to be pure. Purification, which is wudu, major ghusl, is a trust which must be fulfilled. So we must always do that. We clean ourselves after toilet, after we relieve ourselves, take our wudu, do our major ghusl when there is a need to. Purification of the heart from all diseases and sin is necessary, besides purification of the body. So the purification here is not only of the body, as in wudu, as in bath and things like that, but also in purifying our hearts. So constant remembrance of Allah is expressing gratitude to Him. So this is the first part of the hadith. We talk about purification is half of faith. Then we can constant remembrance of Allah is expressing gratitude to Him. Now we need to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah will cause the scales to weigh heavily. Rewards of zikr is also in the world. Like we mentioned about the hadith on, how much good we get by saying subhanallah and how many evil or sins are forgiven. So zikr with focus and understanding brings tranquility of the hearts and stability to the souls. It's very important to have a regime of zikr, right? Morning and evening. Start off little and inshallah, right? Continuously remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've mentioned last week about reading the Quran and such. It's important to do zikrs mornings and evenings. All right, continue on with the prayer is light. So that's we did that first part, right? We talked about purification and the subhanallah, alhamdulillah, all the zikrs there. Right, now prayer is light. Salat is nur. The prayer is a firm obligation and a fundamental pillar of Islam. There's no way we can avoid, we can say it's not wajib. We have gone through those who consider it not wajib, right? And it's considered as good as not being a Muslim. It's definitely wajib and a fundamental pillar of Islam. The main pillar, one of the main pillars of Islam, as we know, Islam has 5 pillars. It is, as He, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, has clarified, absolute light, showing the one who prays the path of goodness, protecting him from disobedience and guiding him to the way of uprightness. So this is Salat. It is light. It shows us to the path of goodness. It protects us from disobedience and it guides us to the way of uprightness. The Exalted One, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, has said, Inna salata tanha anil fahasha'i wal munkar. Surely salat precludes indecency and wrongdoing. And surely salat stops us, forbids from indecencies and wrongdoing, munkar, going against Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. It is thus an abstract light through which the paths of guidance and truth are illuminated, just as a straight road and right path are illuminated by material light. So it is a light that brings us to guidance. It prevents us from doing evil things. Keep on your salat. Some people say, oh, useless, you pray and pray and pray, and still bad, and things like that. No. Let him continue praying. Inshallah, as Allah has said, the salat will. Of course, improvement on the salat is very important. Learning also and stopping ourselves from disobedience to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. It stops us. The salat will be like a creature to stop us from doing all these things. It goes into our heart that we are connected to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We want to obey Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. It imparts awe and splendor to the Muslim in the life just as light will radiate on his face on the day of standing. So inshallah, we move through, we learn. If you are always forgetting on how to improve on your salat, I mean, we had lessons on improving our salat. It's all online on YouTube. If you need the link to the playlist, you can always message, right? So this is it is important for us to feel the presence of Allah, or to be in the presence of Allah during our salat, and realize that we are a slave of Allah. We have a master whom we have to obey. All this will, inshallah, gives us awe and splendor in our life, and also light in the next world. Nuruhum yas'a bayna aydihim wa bi aymanihim. The light will stream out ahead of them and on their right. So this is a light that you are blessed with for those who are praying to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Surah Tahrim, verse number 8. This is because the one who is upright with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and stands before him 5 times a day in humility and devotion will have an upright state with people and be distinguished by his manners and conduct, by his carefulness and taqwa, and Allah will put light on his face just as put light in his heart. So inshallah, right, the prayer makes you realize Allah, the greatness of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that you are nothing, that you need to obey Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. It calls you to humble yourself, devoting to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and it will help you to have an upright state and beautiful manners and conduct. But he's careful, to be very careful in what we say and what we do, and have taqwa of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and inshallah all this will put light on our faces and in our hearts. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has said, Simahum fi wujuhihim min athari sujud. Their mark is on their faces, the traces of prostration. At-Tabrani has narrated. So this one is some people, this marks, some people say, oh, you don't have marks, that means you don't pray. No, this marks is the marks of sujud, inshallah. And the next one is light. It is said that there are those people who pray, but they commit sins, right? And then they will go to hell first. And once in a while, the angels will go around, will be asked to go to hell and look out for those people with the mark of sujud on their forehead. And because they have a sense of knowing Allah, they have a sense of wanting to sujud to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala when they were alive on earth. And that, but their weaknesses has overcome them so much so that they disobeyed Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and caused them to be placed in hell, We ask Allah to protect us from such a condition. And then, but because of their sujood, their reverence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, the mark of sujood, which is light, will not be consumed by the fire. And they will be brought into, be out of hellfire after some time, and they will be washed in the river of life, and they will be placed in paradise. If the slave preserves his prayer, and thus he establishes its wudu, its bowing, its prostration, and its recitation therein, the prayer will say to him, may Allah preserve you the way you preserve me. That means he is very careful not to be distracted during salat. We know that is a challenge for most of us, and one of the reasons given by the scholars that we are in that state is because we are too consumed with the world. Our mind is just with the world a lot. Right? That is why during our salat also we cannot divorce ourselves from the world. Whereas the takbiratul ihram, they say Allahu Akbar, is to allow us to cut ourselves from the world and be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So taking our wudu, be careful. The shaitan is always waiting to cause you not to be focused on your wudu. I remember the sunnahs and everything, take your wudu, wash properly, and know that it is a requirement of that you take wudu before your salat. And when you bow, understand that it's a state of aggrandizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Focus on your recitals. And when you sujood, knowing that you have humbled yourself in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, focus on the recitals, make your du'as in all your recitations, right? So it's good to go through courses, a salat course that goes through all the meanings. Inshallah, help you. So you are preserving the salat. That means you look after your salat, and the salat will look after you. The salat will dua for you. May Allah preserve you the way you preserve. Then he ascends with it into the sky, and it has light, and it ends up at Allah intercedes for him. So the light or the salat will be there, will be brought up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So be very careful. One of the very important things of being in salat and trying to focus in your salat is to realize that you are in the presence of Allah. One thing very important. And the other one is that you are Allah is looking at you, so you should be shy. You should realize that it is a very great wrong. It is rather rude, right, to think of other things when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is looking on at you. So you should not allow yourself to stray, your minds to stray. But I understand it. We understand it's not easy, but it's not impossible, because there are lots of people who have done it before. Done it in this world, not before. Right now, so there are people out there doing it. Light of congregation and the masjid. If a Muslim maintains the prayer in the congregation, then that is light upon light. So praying in congregation gives you even more light, right? So try your very best to pray in congregation at home with whoever is around. And if it is in the masjid, the light is perfected, and it is victory and success. So there's greater light in the mosque. Never mind if a man and a wife, right? Two people are living together, right? The wife will say, oh, if you go to the mosque and I don't have Jama'ah prayers here, right? One way is, but the Prophet ﷺ has said that, in a hadith, that if a woman stays at home while the husband goes to the mosque, right, she gets the reward of the husband who goes to the mosque. So inshallah, so it's good. So you don't stop your husband from going to the mosque just because you don't get to pray Jama'ah, right? Allah will reward you because you allowed him to go to the mosque. It's very important that your husband goes to the mosque, because going to the mosque means you give life to the mosque. Mosque, the word is ma'mur. Ma'mur is an English, is a Malay word from the word umur. Ma'mur is an Arabic word which means to give life. From the word umur, it comes from the word umur. Umur is life. All right, so it's success and victory. It's very good to pray near to the mosque. He has gone ahead to paradise with the pious and those drawn near to him. So those who are inclined to go to the mosque at all times are special people, because they are eager to be with the congregation, and they are eager to be in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And masjid is a house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has said, whoever prays the 5 prayers in congregation will traverse the bridge like a flash of lightning. in the first group of forerunners, and he will be on the day of standing at the moon when it is full. So this is the reward of praying in congregation. And of course, for congregation, some people will just put it as in the homes, right? Allahu Alam is not mentioned here, but of course, Rasulullah has always encouraged all of the men to go to the mosque if it's possible. He will transfer the bridge like a flash. So we know as a bridge, there's a sirat, there's a bridge that we have to go over, right? And below the bridge is the hellfire. So those who are not good, those are good, they will run, they will just go into like a lightning right through to the other side. They are like the first group of forerunners. The sabiquna was sabiqun, right? These are the real people who work hard for their religion, but these people just have to go to the mosque every week too, right? Whenever he's able to, right? Of course, we know a lot of people are working out there, not easy to go to the masjid every salat prayer, but whenever he's able to, Isha, Maghrib, Isha, Subuh, wake up early and just go to the masjid. There's lots of rewards, and Allah Rasulullah has said, whoever goes to the masjid in a subuh, for subuh, he has done ibadah of half a night or one night. Some narrations say even one night. So you can't do that. So you might as well, I mean, Allah has given this special way of gaining by going to the masjid. And on the in the next world, you will have radiant faces like the full moon. This is how great a reward it is. Here, Allah has said, give good news to those who walk in darkness to the masjids of perfect light on the day of standing, as written by Abu Dawud and At-Tirmidhi. They will have perfect light on the day of standing. Beautiful. Those who go out in the dark and walk to the mosque, they are just blessed people. The coolness of the one eyes and the alleviation of grief. Right? Coolness of one's eyes and the alleviation of grief. The prayer is a connection within the slave and his Rabb and his intimate conversation with his creator. You must understand that we must not be bored of our salat. We must be eager to do salat because it is a moment where we connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we converse with him. This is why it is a coolness of the eyes of the people of taqwa. So it is a joy. Coolness of eyes means joy for the people of taqwa. They find therein comfort, serenity, and security. They just love going into salat. They rush, like you say, the Imam, the Khawaja can pray 500 rak'ats a night because he gains great joys in that moments of being with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he is a true lover of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They rush towards it whenever they feel anxious or are struck with grief. And this is nothing strange. The prayer is a moment, they pray sunnah prayers, right? Whenever they are in anxiety, they are in difficulty, they are in unhappiness, right? Allah. They go into salat, be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are merely drinking from the spring of the master of Messenger Rasulullah who said, the coolness of my eyes have been placed in the prayer. So Rasulullah told us that prayer is the coolness of his eyes, is a great source of joy for him. And inshallah, we also will be blessed with that joy that Rasulullah is blessed with. The coolness of my eyes meant that which pleases me and which my eyes enjoys. That's when you see your eyes, you look at things which you're happy, your eyes feel cool. You look at things which you are unhappy with, your eyes feel hot. Also, if a matter befell him, he would say, "Oh Bilal, establish the prayer and comfort us with it." So any problems, he called Bilal to call for the salat, and because it is a joy for him. A matter befalling him means a matter that caused him concern and worry. All right, now we go on to the next part of the hadith, which is charity is proof. The burhan is a rays next to the sun's face. Right, the sun and the rays are the burhan. Is that the meaning of burhan? The burhan is the word that used in the hadith. Burhan. Burhan is proof. It's translated as proof. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has said, when the believer's spirit leaves his body, it has a burhan, like the sun's burhan. So the soul, when the soul leaves the body, that means the person dies and the soul is removed, is a believer, right? A person who is in a state of believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times, then the soul comes out bright and shining. This is why this is a proof. It's called a burhan. It clearly shows what it is indicating. What is a proof? A proof is something that you brought forth to show that this is true. That's what a proof is, right? So what it is indicating. Likewise, charity is a proof for the veracity of one's faith. So charity is a proof how strong your faith is. One, being well disposed towards it is a sign of the presence of faith and its taste. Those who are always giving sadaqah, always giving up their money, it is a sign of strong faith and its taste. It means taste of faith. You know, your charity gives you a beautiful taste of faith. He has said, whoever has done 3 things has tasted the taste of faith. Right? The sweetness of faith, the sweetness of believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 3 things you do. 1, the one who worships Allah alone is number 1. Number 2, he knows that there is no God but Allah and pays, and so worships Allah alone, and Allah is there is no God but Allah. That's number 1. And pays the zakat from his wealth. So zakat from his wealth. Right, so that means, and his soul is well disposed towards it, assisting him every year. So the soul is inclined to it. So the soul is, so one is he's doing it, and the other one is the soul is inclined towards it, giving it every year. So that's zakat. Zakat is of course wajib on a person who has got excess money. His soul assisting him is mentioned because the ego loves wealth and is stingy with it. So if it is allowing wealth to be given for the sake of Allah, this is a sign of the veracity of his faith in Allah, and that it affirms his promise and his strengths. Right, so a person who willingly give away the money, giving zakat has been very difficult for us. People are very rich. As mentioned, if you have 1,000, of course 1,000 is not enough in this modern world to give zakat. You're not zakatable at $1,000. You have savings. You must be at least, I think, 6,000 now. So 1,000 is $25, right? 100 is 2.5, so 1,000 is $25. So 25 times $650. So 6,000, you need to give $150. You know, it doesn't sound so bad at 6,000. At 10,000 is $250. And as you save 100,000, it's going to be $2,500. Sounds a bit bigger. And if you have a million, right? That would be about $25,000, I think so. Which sounds a lot. Or you have more than that, it's like goes to millions also. Zakat, some people just cannot find it. But if you have Allah in your heart, you know it's not yours. It's something that purifies your heart, your money. Give it away, and no worries about no money, because you know Allah is the one who gives rizki. يَرْزُقُ مَن يَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. He gives rizki without accounting. Purity and veracity. The Muslim who has been cleansed and purified of material filth, who expresses his gratitude to Allah and carries out Allah's right over his slaves, his worship is also purified and cleansed from moral filth. So first, he cleansed himself of material filth. That means bathe and everything. He expresses his gratitude to Allah. He does all the zikr, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu akbar, and carries out Allah's right over his slaves. That means he obeys Allah as he should be obeyed. Then his worship is also purified and cleansed from moral filth. Right? Then only can his worship be purified and cleansed from all kinds of filth. The most prominent of such filth is avarice and greed. And for the Muslims, is always open-handed and generous, magnanimous and kind. And thus greed and faith are never gathered in the same pot. You should not have greed. If you are a person of faith, you have no greed. You have no desire for this, desire for that, desire for all kinds of things. You're always giving and giving and giving and giving, because your heart is cleansed of that avarice and greed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And it is the people who are safeguarded from the avarice of their soul, right? Own selves, who are successful. And whoever he guards himself from the desires of the soul, of his soul, then they are the ones that are successful. Real success is to guard yourself against your souls, against the desires of your souls. Thus, charity and spending on good causes is in order to help the poor and indigent, right? They always say poor and indigent. It's like fakir and miskin, you know. Fakir is really have no source of income. Miskin would be those who have some source of income, but not enough to last for the month. Seeking to please Allah and desiring his face, that means only for desiring his face means to to be able to see him, inshallah, in the next one. Whether it is obligatory or voluntary, that means they do give sadaqah obligatory, that means just sadaqah without having, it's not compulsory to give sadaqah, but zakat is compulsory. So you are encouraged to give zakat, sadaqah. As we are aware in Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah describes the people of taqwa, right? Of their means they spend, or what they were given they spend. So it's not just zakat, it's sadaqah. Right? It's a decisive evidence and clear sign of the veracity of someone's faith, and that this person is among the ranks of the successful believers. So giving sadaqah is a sure, inshallah. And of course, there are those who give sadaqah for name and for faith and for fee and whatever. So this is sadaqah, of course, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because to please Allah, seeking to please Allah and desiring His face, is a decisive evidence and clear sign of the veracity. It definitely shows your faith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. It is the believers who are successful, those who are humble in their prayer, in their salat, their khushu' in their salat, those who turn away from worthless talk, right? Don't waste your time talking and listening to nonsense, and those who pay the zakat. So these are successful ones. Patience is a radiant light. So we finished our salat is light, but patience is radiant light. Diya, the word used to describe the light is diya. It's a light that bears a type of heat and burning, like the diya of the sun as opposed to the moon. So it must have heat and it must be burning. The moon is a reflection of light, so it's not diya. So the sun is diya. You simply light that shines without burning. So you have got this patience, is heat and burning. It's not going to be easy. Patience is radiant light because it is hard on the ego to control yourself, to hold yourself, not to spew out things which are unbearable for the years. One needs to struggle against the ego, control it and restrain it from its passions, its desire to say out, to lash out, to scold, to get angry, to scream, to shout. He is able to control. So that is why it is light, because it is not easy on the ego. Patience is a path of victory. The Muslim remains upon that which is correct as long as he continues to be patient, because anyone living in this world is surrounded by adversities and calamities, all of which require firmness and strength. So firmness and strength is part of patience. Right? We have troubles coming in our life, all kinds of troubles, all kinds of difficulties, be it physical, be it emotional, be it from outside elements. It happens in life. That's what part of life, right? But we need to be firm and be strong and hold ourselves and realize that these are trials on us. We need to work hard, right, to move closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why such trials are called fitnah. Fitnah means, it comes from the word which means to smelt a gold. So to purify gold, you need to smelt it first and you burn it, heat it up until it becomes liquid. So when it becomes liquid, the scum and impurities in the gold will actually float up, because gold has a very high density. So after it floats up, you will remove, you'll skim off this scum and impurities. So that allows you to become pure gold. That means you are pure gold after the trials and tribulations that you go through, because you are rida. That means you are always in a state of accepting things that happen in your life. You hold yourself, you move on to improve the situation, to work hard, to make all your du'as, right, to remove, to move on with the calamities, seeking Allah's help and doing what is necessary for you, what you are able to do, right, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, a person will fail and be lost. How great is a Muslim's need for patience? Obedience requires patience. Leaving disobedience requires which got to hold yourself to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You must pray 5 times a day. So have that discipline, right, to desire, to move, to continuously pray 5 times a day, lots of perseverance there. So patience comes in many words in Arabic: perseverance, fortitude, strength. All these are under patience. And to live disobedience, to control yourself from disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need to hold yourself from disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are so many things which are so exciting out there, but it amounts to disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You hold yourself, you bring yourself away from all those things. Bearing with inconveniences and adversities requires patience. So all these things which are difficult, inconveniences, people who start talking about you, who make insinuations against you, who cause a lot of problem in your life, just learn to hold. Ask yourself how best to move on, right? And what should you do? Make your Quran reading, do your prayers, do your sunnahs and everything, right? Do your hajats and everything. Dua, lots of duas. Therefore, to be molded by patience is a power like no other power. An immense light that keeps one illuminated, guided to the truth, and persistent in that which is right. So to be molded is a lot of training to be done, to be patient. It's a power. It's a great power to hold yourself, to hold your emotions, to hold your tongue, right? To hold your eyes and your ears and everything. An immense light that keeps one illuminated. So that is the diya, this great light that gives you, the strength, right, to bring out the best in you, become illuminated, guided to the truth, and persistent in that which is right. Continuously doing what is right, you are guided to do what is right also. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in praise of Ayub alayhi salam, Inna wajadtanahu sabiran ni'mal abdu innahu awwab. Surely we found him steadfast. Sabiran, the word is sabiran, really in the high stage of patience. What an excellent slave. Ni'mal abdu innahu awwab, was surely he is always returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he has always this goodness in him, this great beautiful character in him, this compassion and love and care for all. That is Nabi Ayub alayhi salam. So that is Allah praising him, and also said, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَّبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. Give good news to the steadfast, sabirin, those who, when disaster strikes them, say, with any form of disaster, our money loss or whatever happens to you that disturbs you, you say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Surely we belong to Allah and to him we will return, which reminds us, whatever we do, remember that we're going to return to Allah and we will be questionable for our actions in all those states of difficulties, disaster. Those are the people who have blessings and mercy from their Rabb. Ulaika alaihim salawatum min rabbihim. They are those whom Allah will send salutations and blessings. Salawat is blessings. Now, some people online, Christians actually, are making fun of Allah sending prayers to people because the translation is prayers. But actually, it's not prayers, it's blessings. The root word is the same as salat. Salat, right? Salawat is the same as salat. When you sing salawat to Rasulullah, they say you pray to Rasulullah. No, it's not true. They do not use the word correctly. They twist the meaning of the word and they make fun of it, and they try to disprove Islam by using such words. Come across such article or such videos, just tell them go and talk to Hakim Murad or Hamza Yusuf and ask if they're still really seekers of truth, they can go to these two people and they will clarify it with them. Ulaika alaihim salawatu min rabbihim, that your Rabb will send blessings to you. And he'll send mercy on you. So it'll make it easy. Allah will make it easy for you despite the difficulties you have. Why? Because you know that you're going to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you'll do whatever it takes, right, to be in the good books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they are the ones, they are guided. Muhtadun here is an ism, which means definitely they are guided in the right path because they know the reality of their lives. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We continue with a little bit of Fussilat. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Well, last lesson we did only verse 37. among Allah's signs are the night, the day, the sun, and the moon. So Allah asks us to ponder over these great signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah forbids us from prostrating to the sun and the moon because they are the signs of Allah. They are the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can we prostrate to the sun and the moon? We should be prostrating to Him who is their creator if we truly are His slaves. We are slaves of Allah. He is our Rabb. We have all of us has attest to the fact that Allah is our Rabb in the previous one. All right, continue. فَإِنِ اسْتَكْبَرُوا, that if they were arrogant, فَإِنِ اسْتَكْبَرُوا فَالَّذِينَ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ, then those with your Rabb, يُسَبِّحُونَ, they glorify lahu Him, بِاللَّيْلِ, in the night, وَالنَّهَارِ, and the day. وَهُمْ لَا يَسْأَمُونَ, and they be tired. So, but if they are proud, that means those people who go against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're arrogant, they don't want to sujood to Allah, they don't want to pray to Allah, those with your Rabb, glorify Him. Allah has those with Him, right? Those who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they glorify Him. They say subhanallah all the time, morning and night, and they are not tired. And this one is a sujood verse. That means you're supposed to sujood and say subhanallah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, 7 times. فَإِنِ اسْتَكْبَرُوا, so Allah says, there are those who will be arrogant. Well, then if they are arrogant, doesn't matter. فَالَّذِينَ عِنْدَهُ, there are those with Allah who say who glorify Him night and day. If they think it is beneath them to listen to you and persist still in the ignorance in which they are involved, then they should realize that Allah is in no need of them. This is telling Rasulullah SAW. You talk to them, you try to rationalize with them, you try to explain to them, you try to convince them that the Quranic verses are strong enough, are powerful enough, are clearly divine in nature. They don't want to listen to them because of their arrogance. There's the reason why they don't want to listen. It doesn't matter, leave them alone, because there are those with Allah, with your Rabb, you're here referring to Rasulullah SAW, they, yusabbihuna, they glorify Him, they declare His perfectness for Him, morning and night and day. The system of this whole universe, whose agents, these angels are, is running on the basis of Allah's oneness and enslavement to Him. The whole system of the world is because Allah is the only administrator, Allah is the only God, and all of them are directed by His command. They obey Him. We have heard verses of the Quran in which Allah says the elements in the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything, all sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Human beings are the one that are very arrogant. The angels who are His agents are testifying every moment that their Rabb is pure and exalted. Far above that, another should be His associate in His divinity and worship. That we are aware of that the angels say subhanallah, and subhanallah, as the angel says in Surah Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to create man, and He said, and they told Him, we are here, we are there we are always, all the time, declaring your greatness and giving thanks to you. I mean, why do you want to create these creatures who's gonna shed blood? And Allah says, I know what you don't know. So that's it. The angels keep quiet because it's true. Allah knows best. Now, if a few foolish persons do not believe even after admonition means good counseling, and turn away from the way that is being followed by the whole universe and persist in following the way of shirk only, let them remain involved in their folly, that is arrogance against the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This verse directed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to leave these people alone to themselves. If because of arrogance they are not paying heed to Him and haughtily remark that their ears are deaf to what He's saying, and there is a curtain stretched between them and Him. They say all those things. Our eyes are wrapped up, we cannot think anything more. There's a covering in our ears, we can't hear what you say. Allah says they have ears, but they cannot hear. They have eyes, but they cannot see. Allah has not the slightest concern for them. Prophet ﷺ too should show no concern for them. He has done His part to bring the message to them. He has tried to encourage them to be true slaves of Allah. He's given enough proofs, right, against their actions, and enough proof that they should be following His advice. These people do not worship Allah, it will not the slightest affect His thoughts. The angels that are found in His presence are busy extolling Him day and night. So those are with Him are the angels, and those with Him are the angels in this particular. That's what the Mufassir is telling us. The words "alladhina inda rabbika," those who are with your Rabb, refers to the angels in their collective capacity. They do not refer to the ones who always remain in the presence of the Almighty. So it is said that this one refers to all the angels, not only those who are in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are different angels and different duties, right? Some of them tawaf, some of them say subhanallah, some of them say alhamdulillah, but these are all the angels. This is because the feature of the angels mentioned here belongs to all the angels. The words inda rabbika are meant to express the nearness the angels have with Allah with regard to men and jinn. Men and jinn, right? Allahu alam, in this Mufassirin doesn't seem to say that the men and jinn can be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course they are. It's like people like Hawaja, right? There are those who are really close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this one is inda. Inda is more of in his presence. Wallahu alam bisawab. Thus, if these wretched people are showing indifference to worshipping the Almighty, let them do so. The noble and exalted creatures of Allah, whom these people worship, are the ones who do not feel any shame in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They worship the angels, saying that they are the daughters of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but these are the ones who glorify Allah day and night. And they are busy extolling Him day and night, and their enthusiasm and vigor for this does not diminish the slightest. Wahum la yas'amun, and they do not tire. They are never tired or bored of aggrandizing their Rabb. The consensus is that it is obligatory to perform sajda here, but the jurists differ as to which of the two preceding verses requires the performance of sajda. Ali radiallahu anhu and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud performed the sajda at the end of verse 37, while Ibn Abbas, Ibn Umar, Sa'id bin Susayyab, Masruq, Qatada, Hasan al-Basri, Abu Abdul Rahman al-Sulami, Ibn Sirin, these are all scholars, and Sahabas of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hasan al-Basri might not be his tabi'in. Ibrahim Nakhai and several other prominent jurists have expressed the opinion that it should be performed at the end of verse 38. So there's a difference of opinion, but we're supposed to do our sajda of prostration and say subhanallah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. The same also is the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa, and the Shafi'ites also have held the same view as preferable. Turning away from prostration and worship are clear indications of arrogance. Prostration is a sign of humbling yourself in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Realizing that you have a God who is all great. So you say, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, all elevated, all great, above all in his attributes. He is the best of all, and you are nothing compared to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mentioned before the case of a woman who converted, and she found it very difficult to sujood because she says she is a self-made person. But through Islam, she, alhamdulillah, right, remove the arrogance and gain humbleness, inshallah. This is addressed to the Prophet. So I'm saying, O Muhammad, if these polytheists turn away from prostrating before and worshipping Allah out of arrogance and enmity, diverse ranks of angels and heavenly creatures who are close to Allah glorify and worship their Rabb day and night, and they are never tired of glorification at all times. So do it all the time. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And here, Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa anta khalaqtani wa ana abduka wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata'tu a'udzu bika min syarri ma sana'tu abu'u laka bi ni'matika alayya wa abu'u bi dhanbi faghfir li innahu la yaghfiru dhunuba illa anta. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القتر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.